Okay, we've got this equation here. It's a quadratic equation in what's called turning point form. So x take 2 all squared take 5. And we call it turning point form of a quadratic equation because it's really easy to find the turning point. The turning point is just given by this value here, the 2. And notice it's negative 2 in the bracket, so it's actually the x value of the turning point is positive 2. We change the sign. And the y coordinate of the turning point is negative 5. So in this form of the quadratic equation, really easy to find the turning point. We can just straight up say our turning point is equal to 2, negative 5. In other words, x coordinate is positive 2, y coordinate is negative 5. So the positive 2's come from this bracket. We've changed the sign to give the x value, and this value outside the bracket gives us the y value of the turning point, the y coordinate of the turning point. Now the y-axis intercept, we need to be a bit careful with this one. Some students sort of mistakenly say that this negative 5 value is the y-axis intercept. It's not. To find the y-axis intercept, we could think of the y-axis intercept as being the point where the graph crosses this y-axis here. And at that point, the x value is equal to 0. So what we can do to the equation is just substitute x is equal to 0 into the equation here. And then find out what the corresponding y value is, and that'll be our y-axis intercept. So in this case, we can say that our y-axis intercept will be y is equal to 0 take 2 squared take 5. So I've substituted 0 for x in the equation, and we can go ahead and solve that. We'll get y is equal to negative 2 squared take 5. Now negative 2 squared means negative 2 times negative 2, so that's positive 4 take 5. 4 take 5, and that's equal to negative 1. And if you wanted to write that as coordinate point, we could say that that was 0, 0, negative 1. But we could just as easily say y is equal to negative 1 as the y-axis intercept. So finally, now that we've got those 2 points, we can fairly easily sketch this graph. All we do is just plot the turning point, so 2, negative 5. So if we go across to 2 on the x-axis down to negative 5 on the y-axis and put a point there, there's my turning point. My y-axis intercept is 0, negative 1. So that's 0 in the x direction, negative 1 in the y direction, so that goes around about there. And then because this is a quadratic equation, we know that it is parabolic. It's got the parabolic curve shape. And it's also symmetrical about this turning point. So about this turning point, it's symmetrical, so we could put another point here and just join that up with a smooth parabolic curve, like so. Put some arrows on the end, and we've graphed our quadratic equation.